Hello, welcome to the Good Morning Seniors YouTube channel. Today's podcast topic name is Why Friends Start to Disappear After 75 and How to Stay Connected. That title, Why Friends Start to Disappear After 75. It's a bit of a heavy one, isn't it?
It really is. It touches on something a lot of people experience.
Yeah, it acknowledges this quiet, often bittersweet reality that, so many people face as they get into their later years. We're talking about a pretty major life shift where that social circle, the one that maybe felt so solid and wide for decades, it just sort of begins this unexpected contraction.
Unexpected is often the key word there. It creeps up on people.
Exactly. And this change, well, it can bring with it these really profound feelings of nostalgia, definitely, but also sometimes a deep, maybe even startling sense of loneliness.
It's a kind of loss, isn't it? But one we don't always talk about openly.
Right. It's a form of loss that isn't always discussed with the same, urgency as other major life events, but it feels absolutely vital for us to address it.
And that is precisely the mission of this deep dive today. I think it's really essential to frame this experience not as some sort of personal failing or, a unique struggle you're going through alone.
Okay.
But actually as a completely universal and frankly natural life transition. There's significant demographic research backing this up.
So it's a pattern.
A definite pattern. And understanding the why behind it, that's really the foundation of building resilience. So today, we're going to meticulously distill the complex reasons, both psychological and practical, why these social networks naturally tend to shrink.
And the solutions part.
And crucially, yes, we'll provide proactive, actionable steps you can take, like right now, to intentionally rewrite your social story. Do it with optimism and strength.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're going deep into the psychology behind this whole demographic phenomenon.
Yeah.
Really exploring the factors that cause these shifts.
The underlying currents, so to speak.
Yeah. And then we'll pivot to the extremely practical ways that real individuals, folks across the USA, are actively turning potential isolation into something vibrant, into an intentional community.
Real stories, real strategies.
This knowledge, it's all about gaining a bit of power back, isn't it? And figuring out how to move forward.
Okay, so the first absolutely non-negotiable definition here is that this is a universal reality. Hitting that, let's say, threshold of 75, it truly does often usher in a new social chapter.
It's not just anecdotal then. Research confirms.
Oh, absolutely. Research consistently demonstrates that social networks naturally contract with advanced age. And here's the thing. It's usually less about a conscious decision, like someone actively choosing to withdraw.
Right. Not like they suddenly don't like people.
Exactly. It's far more about unavoidable circumstances. I mean, think about it. The built-in social scaffolding of earlier life, daily work interactions, the neighborhood density that revolves around raising kids, active civic roles, a lot of that has largely dissolved by this stage.
Yeah, that scaffolding analogy is good. The workplace friends, the PTA meetings, the coaching, it all fades.
It fades. And when that built-in structure goes, the world can start to feel fundamentally different. When we lose those really long-term relationships, we aren't just losing a person, are we?
No. It feels deeper.
We're losing a witness to our own history. And psychologists, they actually have a pretty profound term for the feeling that results from that loss. Desolation.
Desolation. Wow. That sounds heavier than just loneliness.
It is, yes, desolation. It's a very specific psychological state. It accurately describes that feeling that the world itself seems less vibrant, maybe less grounded, because those essential long-term shared memories.
The inside jokes, the remember whens.
Precisely. The history that only a decades-old friend can really validate, they're simply no longer present in the same way. It's not just loneliness, which is, the lack of company. It's more the existential weight of having fewer people around to reflect and confirm your life's journey back to you.
That silence, where the shared laughter used to be.
They can feel deafening.
That insight is really powerful, losing the witness to your history. But you mentioned earlier that just acknowledging this doesn't have to lead straight to despair. It can actually fuel a kind of motivational pivot.
It absolutely can. Recognizing this contraction isn't about admitting defeat. It's about gaining clarity. It allows us, or helps us, pivot our focus quite dramatically. We start to move away from maybe the metrics of youth, which often measure the sheer quantity of people in one social circle.
Right, how many Facebook friends or contacts you have.
Exactly. And instead, we focus, often intensely, on the quality and the depth of the few relationships that remain, and importantly, the new ones we actively choose to cultivate. This awareness of, let's say, finite time, it's often called the socio-emotional selectivity principle in studies, it really drives this intentional focus.
So it's about being selective.
Very selective. Resilience comes from making every interaction truly count. This is how seniors often leverage what might be limited energy for maximum emotional reward. It's smart, really.
Okay, so let's talk about the first major driver. And this is, I suppose, the toughest one. The often heartbreaking driver of this social contraction. Mortality and health decline.
It's unavoidable, unfortunately.
Feels like an accumulation of loss, doesn't it? After 75, we've naturally accumulated decades of deep foundational bonds, and as mortality rates just, well, naturally rise with age, the rate of loss within one's immediate circle rises dramatically too.
That accumulation point is so profound, it's the source of the challenge. Every year lived past 75 means you simply have a larger pool of deep friendships, which unfortunately means the potential emotional impact of each passing is greater.
And it's not just about death itself, is it?
No, absolutely not. We have to remember it's not exclusively about death. Severe health issues, things like the onset of advanced dementia or maybe significant mobility problems, they can limit interaction just as restrictively as actual absence.
Making it harder to get out, harder to connect.
Exactly. And the data here is quite clear. It indicates that older adults who report having poor health are significantly more likely to also report having no close friends at all.
Wow.
Yeah. So this correlation between declining physical capacity and the sort of social void, it really amplifies the isolation effects exponentially.
Gosh, if that link between poor health and lack of connection is so strong,
Yeah.
how does acknowledging this incredibly difficult reality become, a constructive starting point? It sounds quite bleak.
It can sound bleak, but the critical pivot point here is emotional preparedness. When you face the reality of loss, maybe not dwelling on it morbidly, but acknowledging it, you reduce the immediate shock when it inevitably occurs.
Yeah, so it's less of a blindside.
Less of a blindside. And it instantly compels, I think, a deeper appreciation for the friendships that do survive. That small shared moment over coffee or just a phone call, it suddenly becomes exponentially more valuable and cherished. You feel motivated to invest right now in the present.
And what about the space that's left behind by loss? Does that just stay empty?
That's a great question. The space that opens up after loss, while it's deeply painful, of course, it does not have to remain empty forever. It actually creates room, sometimes surprisingly, for fresh, meaningful connections.
Where would those come from?
Often within specific contexts, like support groups, senior centers, maybe advocacy communities where people share a common purpose or experience. Processing grief healthily, rather than suppressing it, is actually scientifically proven to reduce stress.
Which helps your health overall.
Directly. It supports cardiovascular and mental health, which in turn enables longer vitality and ultimately greater social capacity down the road. Facing grief is, in a way, an act of self-preservation.
We actually see this powerful blend, this mix of profound grief and really astonishing resilience in the story of Michael J. Whelan from Florida.
Oh, Michael's story is remarkable.
Yeah, Michael, who's this powerful advocate for cancer and Parkinson's patients, he spoke very candidly online about mourning, like the weekly losses of dear friends from his support circles. It sounds gut-wrenching.
It truly is. Yet he refuses to let that grief consume him.
How does he manage that?
Well, his story is really a masterclass in channeling pain into purpose. He channels that overwhelming grief into, well, vibrant advocacy, but also into self-deprecating humor, which is amazing.
Humor helps.
Definitely. He shared online that even though he feels this continual weight of these goodbyes, his response is to emphasize holding on tighter and laughing harder. It shows that while friends may physically fade, their positive legacy, the impact they had, it can endure through continued action and memory.
Yeah, and he does practical things too.
Yes, in his sunny Florida community, he actively hosts remembrance gatherings. He transforms what could be individual, private sorrow into a kind of communal strength, a shared celebration of the lives lived.
I find his proactive approach just incredibly inspiring. His journey didn't just stop at, bracing himself for the next difficult phone call. He made it purposeful. Well, he mentioned journaling the voices and photos of those he lost, carefully preserving those memories as tangible artifacts of friendship. He describes this process as ensuring they still get to talk sometimes.
That's beautiful, preserving the essence.
It is. And now he actively connects with new advocates daily, proving that loss, even repeated loss, can absolutely spark a renewal, a completely new direction for connection, but one that's rooted in shared mission and understanding. Okay, that brings us really seamlessly to our next set of drivers, the factors that are maybe less about that inevitable loss and more about life, evolution, intention, and circumstance.
Right, the shifts that happen within us and around us. So, driver number 2. As individuals move past 75, physical and mental energy, it truly becomes this fiercely guarded, non-renewable resource.
Yeah, you can't just pull an all-nighter like you used to.
Not easily. So priorities often shift quite dramatically, maybe toward health maintenance, spending quality time with immediate family, grandchildren perhaps, or simply requiring more rest. And the consequence is there's significantly less reserve energy available for maintaining, say, casual or high-effort friendships.
That psychological shift feels critical too. Like we mentioned before, those built-in social structures, the daily water cooler chats at work, the shared stress of parenting, the expectation of being constantly available, they're mostly gone. And because people finally have maybe more time to reflect on what genuinely matters to them now, friends who once bonded over those external obligations might find their core values or interests have actually genuinely diverged over the years.
It's a natural evolution, really, toward more intentional living. When we talk about limited energy, we should try to view this selection process as a kind of powerful curation, rather than seeing it as a social deficit.
Curation, I like that, like choosing what stays on the shelf.
Exactly. By prioritizing energy, you ensure that the interactions you do choose to have are emotionally richer, more satisfying, and you reduce the risk of social burnout. It becomes, in a way, a call for radical self-care, focusing on hobbies, internal fulfillment, which, interestingly, quite often naturally attracts deeply like-minded new friends anyway.
So it fuels resilience.
This adaptable approach strengthens emotional resilience tremendously. Yes.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. You talk about this intentional pruning, but how do we draw the line?
Right.
How do you make that transition from a life maybe based on external structure to one driven purely by internal purpose and, limited energy without that pruning process looking like withdrawal or even depression from the outside?
That's a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
And it requires deep self-awareness and often some motivated intervention. Let's look at Jeff W., a retiree from Texas. His story illustrates this. His social life had shrunk quite profoundly, actually, after retirement. And that decline was compounded because his wife developed Alzheimer's, which kind of anchored him more to the home. He noticed his once popular circle had really vanished.
That must have been hard.
Very hard. But he confronted the reality head on. He basically said to himself, I need to solve this because this level of isolation is simply not healthy for me or for her. That explicit recognition of the problem, that was the crucial psychological trigger for him.
So he named it.
Yeah.
And his motivated turnaround, it didn't involve like suddenly trying to chase 50 new friends,
Right.
which would have been overwhelming given his energy constraints and caregiving role.
Yeah.
What were the small, actionable steps he took?
The genius really was in the simplicity. He did join some local senior clubs, but his method involved first journaling about those isolated feelings to identify what exactly he missed. Was it the banter, the routine?
Pinpointing the need.
Precisely. For him, it was shared conversation and structure. Then came the action, making just one single determined cold call to a local community center organizer. Just one call. Just one motivated call. And that call ultimately led to the formation of a weekly coffee group that provided that essential, low-effort structure he needed. It just goes to show that small, highly intentional steps can be powerful enough to reignite that social spark, moving him from what felt like mandated isolation to meaningful connection. Okay, driver number 3. This one is purely geographic. We're talking about the physical displacement of people, whether it's the necessity of downsizing, maybe moving into assisted living, or those massive migration patterns we see, especially towards warmer climates.
The snowbirds heading south.
Exactly. Relocation fundamentally disrupts established social routines and, crucially, proximity.
Yeah, this is an enormous factor in the United States, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where a staggering number of seniors do relocate across state lines for retirement. You hear about Florida, Arizona, Nevada all the time.
Very common.
And distance, it just immediately and ruthlessly makes those spontaneous visits impossible. If your friendships were mainly maintained just by the ease of proximity, bumping into someone at the grocery store or having a quick chat over the garden fence, those bonds will likely fade without some real, concerted, proactive effort.
The key here, I think, is shifting the motivational perspective. We need to encourage viewing relocation more as an adventure, maybe a new beginning, rather than solely as an irreversible loss of community.
Easier said than done sometimes, though.
Of course. But that perspective shift, it really swings the doors wide open to exploring fresh local communities, potentially expanding social horizons significantly. Yes, distance will certainly test the authenticity of friendships, no doubt, but the ones that survive that test often deepen profoundly.
And the effort itself is protective.
Absolutely. The intentional effort to adapt, to reach out, it helps prevent those loneliness-linked health issues that research connects with geographic isolation.
You shared a particularly moving and, actually quite humorous story about navigating this challenge successfully.
Yes, I think you're referring to Lee Grain from Arizona. Lee, who was 73, so rapidly approaching that 75-year milestone we're discussing, decided he needed to move about 1,500 miles.
Wow, big move.
Huge move. But his brilliant solution was to turn it into a shared experience. He moved with his 65-year-old best friend, Bill, and the context is important. Both men had tragically lost their long-term partners fairly recently.
Oh my goodness, that is truly the ultimate buddy move, isn't it? A proactive solution to what could have been profound loneliness for both of them.
It really is. Relocation could easily have isolated them both, quite profoundly, but they chose immediate companionship instead, and they were smart about it. They established shared rituals right away in their new environment.
Like what?
Simple things. They shared wine in the evenings, they laughed about their moving woes, which there were probably many, and crucially, they made a point of having nightly talks to process the day, share memories, just connect.
Building a new routine together.
Exactly. And Lee's story, it's since become this really powerful inspiration in Arizona retirement communities for others who might be considering similar buddy moves, or at the very least, setting up really reliable virtual check-ins with distant friends. It just proves that shared history, combined with that motivated, proactive choice for companionship, can fuel a successful move and keep emotional spirits high, even when facing significant geographic challenges.
Okay, our fourth driver brings us back to health again, but this time focusing specifically on the physical limitations that often arise: mobility issues, chronic pain, maybe cognitive changes.
Yes, things that make getting out and about harder.
Conditions like severe arthritis, for example, can turn what used to be a simple outing into a really exhausting ordeal. And we know that after age 75, roughly 1 in 4 people face significant mobility issues. That makes attending external social events quite complicated.
And this can lead to a really heartbreaking social dynamic, unfortunately. Friends, sometimes genuinely with the best intentions, might subtly start excluding the person.
How so? They don't mean to be unkind.
Often not. They might stop extending invitations because they anticipate a refusal. They think, oh, it'll be too painful, or it's too much effort, or they'll find the logistics too difficult. They think they're being considerate.
But the effect is exclusion.
The effect is exclusion. The person who is perhaps more homebound then feels increasingly forgotten, isolated, which confirms their worst fears, even though their friend's intentions might simply have been to spare them discomfort or bother. It's a negative cycle.
So if the friends might pull back, maybe due to perceived difficulty, the responsibility then falls back on the person who's experiencing the health challenge to somehow break that cycle. What's the critical strategic push here?
The strategic push has to focus on two things: accessibility and transparent communication.
Huh.
It means proactively managing chronic health issues as best as possible to maintain maximum social capacity, sure, but also sharing the challenges openly, vulnerably, to educate friends and actually deepen bonds, instead of just refusing an invitation flat out.
Offer an alternative.
Offer an alternative. You know, I can't meet you at that noisy restaurant downtown. The steps are too much, but hey, I'd love to host a quiet gathering here on Tuesday afternoon.
That shifts the narrative completely, from refusal to adaptation. What about other adaptive strategies?
Adaptive strategies are absolutely key. Switching maybe from high-effort restaurant dinners to simpler, home-based, low-effort potlucks where guests bring everything, that takes the burden off the host.
Makes sense.
Furthermore, the very act of figuring out how to overcome these physical barriers, it fosters tremendous personal resilience. It boosts self-esteem, and it naturally encourages people to seek out and join specialized health-focused support networks.
Which are ready-made social groups.
Exactly. They're ready-made social groups centered around empathy and shared experience, where accessibility is usually built in.
The profound impact of this kind of vulnerability, just sharing the reality, was highlighted in a story shared by an ER nurse working out in California.
I remember this one.
Yeah, she relayed this moment when a 97-year-old patient looked up at her and just lamented. So simply, "I'm so lonely. All my friends have dementia."
Oh, heartbreaking.
It really is. The patient's own health challenges, combined with the cognitive decline of her entire peer group, had essentially just eroded her social network completely.
And that raw, shared vulnerability, that simple statement, it actually became a catalyst, didn't it?
It did. The nurse sharing that specific moment sparked community advocacy within that hospital system. It led to drives for coordinated senior visits in California hospitals, trying to combat that isolation.
And similar powerful anecdotes, stories like that, they've even inspired some really pioneering initiatives using technology, like virtual reality meetups.
VR meetups for seniors.
Yes. These VR sessions allow patients who are severely limited by mobility to meet in a digital space. Maybe it's simulated as a beach or a museum gallery, just to maintain those connections, keep conversational threads going, despite their physical confinement. It really shows that even the steepest health hurdles can inspire collective, sometimes technological solutions when vulnerability is shared openly.
Okay, finally, the fifth driver. We address the most internal one, perhaps. The natural, continuous evolution of our interests and our values.
Who we are keeps changing right through life.
Exactly. After 75, many people seem to undergo this natural process of, you call it social pruning earlier.
Yes, pruning, like trimming a plant for healthier growth.
Okay, so they consciously or maybe subconsciously shed some of the more casual ties and acquaintances that maybe no longer genuinely align with who they are now. Perhaps they're moving towards simplicity or deeper spiritual pursuits or just intense personal reflection.
And this internal change, it's often tremendously positive. It can represent a really powerful push toward the authentic self.
Finding out what really matters.
Finding out what really matters. It's about prioritizing true emotional quality over sheer social quantity. Actively seeking out those deeply meaningful, value-aligned bonds rather than simply maintaining relationships out of habit or obligation. And this deep alignment with one's core values, it brings greater emotional health, it reduces cognitive dissonance, and it generally promotes a more holistic sense of fulfillment.
And in terms of like modeling behavior for others.
Well, it sets an incredible example. This kind of evolution clearly demonstrates to younger generations that personal growth never actually stops. You are always allowed to change your interests and priorities, and ideally, your friendships should support that change, not restrict it.
We have a really unique story that perfectly illustrates the maybe adventurous side of this value shift. This one comes from New York.
Oh, the story Laura Elliott shared.
That's the one. Laura shared the experience of her 75-year-old widowed friend, Frank. After his wife passed, he decided to join some senior group tours, partly to combat his loneliness.
A common strategy, joining tours.
Right. But in the midst of these NYC senior travel circles, Frank was spontaneously adopted, as Laura put it, by this fun, very welcoming group of lesbians who offered to become his pen pals.
That is fantastic. Talk about unexpected connections.
Totally unexpected. A profound shift in his life circumstances led to this surprising cross-cultural connection.
It really demonstrates the power of openness, doesn't it? Frank had to embrace entirely new values, maybe, of acceptance and emotional transparency, moving beyond the perhaps more traditional, coupled, structured life he had known for so long.
He had to step outside his comfort zone.
Considerably. His willingness just to engage with a highly diverse group, based simply on shared humor and a mutual love for travel, it turned what could have been a really painful value crisis, or just continued loneliness, into a genuinely rewarding new adventure. His ultimate comment, apparently, was that this experience helped him recognize that life's best connections often come from the most unexpected places. You just have to be open.
Okay, so we have thoroughly analyzed the tough realities, haven't we?
Yeah.
Loss, the energy shift, distance, health barriers, evolving values. Now let's pivot our focus entirely. We're diving into the practical, the empowering steps that experts and the resilient seniors we've heard about suggest for proactively keeping that social flame burning bright. This is the actionable takeaway section.
Right, moving from understanding the why to figuring out the how. First up, technology. Today, tech isn't just a convenience anymore. It's become an indispensable bridge. It instantly connects you across geographical distance and helps overcome mobility barriers.
Especially for the 75-plus community.
Particularly, visual tools like Zoom, FaceTime, Skype, whatever you use, they are crucial because they offer that effortless FaceTime. You can see smiles, you can read expressions, you can check on someone's well-being in a way that texting or even a phone call just cannot replicate.
Yeah, seeing the face makes a huge difference. But the key to using technology successfully, especially if you're not, a digital native, is weaving it into a routine, right?
Consistency is vital.
So our practical tips here really focus on that consistency. Treat those weekly video calls like scheduled appointments. Put them on a calendar, just like you would a doctor's visit, to ensure you actually follow through.
Make it a ritual.
And for those who might struggle with fine motor skills, maybe arthritis in the hands makes typing hard.
Utilize voice notes or short video messages. They're significantly easier and quicker than trying to type out long text messages on a tiny screen.
Good tip. And what about finding new connections online?
We must remember online hobby groups. They are perfect for reducing isolation without requiring any physical travel, especially if you have niche interests, maybe ancient history or bird watching or specific crafts.
Finding your tribe online.
Finding your tribe online. Gabrielle Clark from Nevada perfectly captures this necessary blend, the mix of digital tools and in-person effort. Gabrielle was initially just motivated by kindness, spending time with a lonely elder in her community, singing old country songs, helping with daily tasks.
Just simple connection.
Simple connection. But that experience inspired her to use technology more broadly to plan more community-wide outings and connections for other seniors too.
And this led to a practical community tool, didn't it? Something others could use.
Yes, exactly. In her Nevada community, Gabrielle's personal efforts spurred the creation of these Adopt an Elder apps. They blend digital outreach like matching volunteers with seniors who need company or help with the actual in-person planning needed for robust, lasting bonds.
That's brilliant. Bridging the digital and real world.
It is, and her simple but really profound takeaway for anyone who might be hesitant to reach out, maybe feeling awkward about it, was just check on elders. They bring joy. Simple as that.
Okay, strategy 2. This one is about consciously recreating some of that built-in social structure that many people lose after retirement or when life circumstances change.
Rebuilding the scaffolding.
Exactly. Senior centers, book discussion groups, gardening associations, volunteer organizations. These places offer low-pressure, often consistent social opportunities right in your local neighborhood. They provide instant common ground.
The initial challenge, though, is often just taking that first step. Maybe the fear of commitment or feeling overwhelmed by joining something new.
Yeah, walking into a room full of strangers can be intimidating at any age.
It really can. So our advice here is always to start incredibly small. Commit to just one meeting a month initially. Build some momentum, prove to yourself you can do it, and critically, choose groups that align with your genuine current passions.
Don't join the chess club if you hate chess just because it's there.
Please don't. If you love history, join the local historical society. If you love walking, join a local walking or hiking club. This maximizes your enjoyment and vastly increases the likelihood of finding truly aligned friends.
Makes sense. And if you're nervous about going alone,
proactively ask a current friend, or maybe a family member, even a neighbor, to accompany you just to that first meeting. Having a buddy can really ease those initial nerves.
Josh Puckett from Kentucky really embodied the emotional power of this strategy, didn't he?
His story is very moving. After his neighborhood suffered the loss of several key community matriarchs, the people who really hold things together, he could easily have retreated into grief and isolation.
But he didn't.
No. Instead, he channeled that energy and found, surprisingly perhaps, joy by joining local history groups. By actively participating in preserving community ties, reflecting on the shared past, he reconnected with similar souls who valued those same things.
And his insight was quite profound.
It was. His insight, which holds immense wisdom, I think, is that sorrow and joy coexist in memories. And these intentional groups, these clubs, they provide a beautiful, structured space to honor both sides of that reality. Strategy number 3, volunteering. This is arguably one of the most powerful antidotes to isolation we have. Why? Because it instantly creates undeniable purpose.
Takes the focus off yourself and puts it onto helping others.
Precisely. The act of helping others is intrinsically rewarding. It's intrinsically motivating, and it demonstrably lifts your own spirits. It creates this robust, positive feedback loop that promotes both physical and emotional well-being.
And the flexibility of volunteering is key too, right? It's not one size fits all.
Not at all. You can tailor it precisely to your current energy levels and your specific skills or interests. If you have a lifelong love of stories, well, reading to children at a local library or school could be a perfect match.
But managing energy is still important.
Absolutely essential. Set clear boundaries. Only commit to short shifts, maybe an hour or two a week, to prevent energy fatigue, especially when starting out. And for those who are largely homebound, we need to remember that options for online or remote volunteering are rapidly increasing. You can contribute to causes you care about right from the comfort of your favorite chair.
Mimi from California. Her story demonstrates this holistic power, doesn't it? Giving back while also maintaining deep personal connections.
Yes, Mimi's approach is wonderful. She maintains a consistent routine of dining with her 78-year-old widowed friend, really dedicating that time to deep listening and shared reflection. That's volunteering time and attention.
That counts as giving back.
It absolutely does. And in addition to that, she volunteers more formally at grief support groups. This helps her maintain a wider social network while providing vital support to others who are experiencing loss similar to her friends.
And she had a powerful reminder for us.
Her powerful reminder for all of us is simply to hug the one who holds your heart. And her technique for fostering connection, apparently, is using direct but gentle, open-ended questions that encourage genuinely deep conversations rather than just surface chat.
Okay, we've got a necessary pair of strategies here at the end. They really have to work in tandem. First, maintaining the steady bonds, and second, intentionally rebuilding the new ones.
Keeping the old, welcoming the new. Exactly. So, strategy 4 is maintaining routines and reunions.
And consistency factor again.
Yes. Weekly, low-effort routines like those simple coffee dates we keep mentioning, or shared morning walks, maybe a regular phone call time. They keep existing bonds reliable and steady. They anchor your social life. And then, maybe less frequently, annual reunions or planned get-togethers are absolutely vital for reviving those older, perhaps geographically distant ties.
But good intentions aren't enough. You need structure.
You must use your calendar religiously for follow-through. Please do not rely on memory alone. Put it in the diary, set reminders. And when it's your turn to host, utilize low-effort events. Simple potlucks are fantastic, high fun, low stress, minimizes the physical burden of preparation. Everyone chips in.
This routine-based approach feels deeply ingrained in the culture of senior life in many places in the USA. You think of those thriving cafe routines where friends gather, often for those, do you remember, chats that just reaffirm their shared history.
Those moments are precious.
We heard that sage wisdom from Tony, a regular at one of these cafes, who said, "Cherish conversations, they fade." That sense of urgency, it should motivate us to maintain these small weekly efforts. And importantly, to be willing to adapt traditions.
Adapt how?
Well, maybe move the weekly card game online if someone can't get out easily, or meet virtually for that book club discussion if health dictates. Be flexible.
Good point. Okay, then strategy 5 is building new friendships through shared experiences. New friends aren't a replacement for lost ones, but they are a necessity to fill the natural gaps caused by all those other drivers we discussed: loss, relocation, etc.
And where's the best place to find them?
Structured environments tend to be best. Things like workshops, classes, either online or in person, maybe organized tours. They offer perfect fresh starts because you immediately share a common experience and a mutual interest with the people there. Instant conversation starter.
The tips for actually making new friends, they seem deceptively simple, but maybe hard to put into practice.
They can be, but they work. First, embrace diversity for new perspectives, new friends from different backgrounds, enrich your life far beyond your current comfort zone. Second, be proactively open.
What does proactively open mean?
It means smiling, making eye contact, asking sincere, open-ended questions, showing genuine interest to the other person. And third, critically, follow up quickly.
Don't wait too long.
Don't wait. If you connect with someone after a meeting or a class, suggest grabbing a quick coffee right then and there or exchange numbers to connect later that week. Momentum is really essential in building new ties before the initial spark fades.
And we also need to highlight the immense power of intergenerational bonds here.
Oh, absolutely. Misa Pogon from Colorado shared his beautiful experience befriending 75-year-old Sylvia. He essentially became her adopted grandson, as he put it, through simple weekly lunches.
What was his main takeaway?
He stresses that the core lesson he learned was incredibly simple. Just listen to their story. These intergenerational bonds are so powerful because they offer both connection and a dynamic, fresh perspective. They benefit both generations involved by bridging that gap between historical experience and contemporary life. It's a win-win. #outro.
Wow. We have covered a significant amount of ground in this deep dive, haven't we? We identified and really thoroughly explored those 5 core reasons friends can start to disappear after 75 that natural loss and mortality.
The shifting energy and priorities.
Right, relocation and geographic distance, those tough health challenges and mobility issues.
And finally, that natural evolution of our own interests and values.
And crucially, we didn't just leave it there. We paired every single challenge with highly actionable solutions. We looked at 5 powerful strategies. Leveraging technology for really accessible outreach.
Intentionally joining clubs and community groups to rebuild structure.
Volunteering and giving back with purpose.
Maintaining those consistent routines and reunions for existing ties.
And finally, proactively building new friendships through shared structured experiences.
Phew. That's a lot, but it's hopeful.
It really is. I think the ultimate takeaway here is that connection, that sense of belonging, it is absolutely reclaimable. The resilience demonstrated in the lives of people like Michael, Jeff, Lee, Gabrielle, and all the others we mentioned, it just proves that intentional, proactive steps really do work. Hopefully, you listening feel motivated now and equipped to start finding your own specific plan for a richer, more intentional social world.
So maybe let's leave you with a final thought to mull over as you finish listening to this deep dive. If friendships naturally contract to the essentials as we age, kind of forcing us to prioritize quality, how do you define the essential quality, that non-negotiable trait you seek in any new relationship now, today?
That's a deep question.
And perhaps even more powerfully, what specific, unique value or story or perspective are you ready and willing to offer in return to that new potential connection? Because remember, connection, real connection, is always a reciprocal exchange. It goes both ways.
That's a perfect thought to end on. We really hope this deep dive was helpful in starting that journey toward a more socially rich life. If you enjoyed this conversation, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Good Morning Seniors YouTube channel.